following is a presentation of Main Street Media, your source for news, sports, and information on Main Street in Middle Tennessee.
Hello and welcome into Main Street Preps this week. I'm Russell Vannozzi, joined by a special guest today in place of Tyler Palmatier. We have Sumner County sports editor Zach Womble filling in. Zach, I appreciate you being here.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Happy to jump in and lend a helping hand while Tyler is kind of off on assignment doing what he's doing. No problem. Thanks for asking me.
So we are going to spend today wrapping up football season. We're going to talk to Oakland head coach Kevin Creasy after his team won its third straight Class 6A title. That's something that's never been done before in the state of Tennessee. Really impressive year from them. And then we're going to talk a little bit about what's next, too, for this show and for our coverage moving forward. Before we do all that, though, I want to remind everybody that this podcast is sponsored by the Tennessee Highway Safety Office. Fans don't let fans drive drunk. Let's welcome in Kevin now, riding high off Saturday's win over Beach. Like I said, the third straight Class 6A title for the Patriots. Kevin, congratulations on yet another big win for you guys.
Guys, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
So, Kevin, I know every championship team or really any team that has a good season, there's always some defining characteristics. There's something about the team that you really remember and as special. And you know, with this team compared to the other three title teams that you've had at Oakland, what about this team was special, and what are you going to remember most about them?
Yeah, I'd probably say that there's not really a lot of superstars on this team. You know, we had some really household names on the last two teams that we had that won state championships, and you know, some big time D1 players. And on this team, we've got really good players, and it's just they're good high school players. Hopefully they can go on to college, but it wasn't really a superstar that stood out. You know, it was just kind of a team effort, a collective effort. And a lot of these guys have been playing together since I moved here, and they were youth football players. I knew them from back in the day playing youth football for the Oakland Pee Wee bunch. And they went to middle school, and, you know, just a good group of guys that have been with us for a long time. And, they deserve a lot of the success they got. They've worked hard to get here. And like I said, we've had some, struggles early on. Had one of our best players, Eric Taylor, hurt and had shoulder surgery. And when he came back, we were a whole lot better football team.
Kevin, you guys were leading 14-6 after halftime in the third quarter, but Beach had the opportunity to kind of double dip you guys, if you will, opportunity to get back into the football game. But as you know, you guys ran away with it. I guess from your point of view, what allowed you guys to open up such a big lead in that third quarter?
Yeah, I think the whole game changed on a fourth down stop. They went for it on fourth down, and I thought it was going to be interesting because of the 2-point conversion that was going to have to take place. So they're inside our 10-yard line, and our defense comes up big, and had some penetration come through and at least slow them down, and then stop them just a few inches short of a first down. And the very next play, Eric Taylor goes about 70 yards and gets in their red zone. So, in 2 plays, the whole dynamic of the game changed. And, Beach helped us out a little bit with a punt that kind of went awry. We were about to block a punt, and so we got in good territory there. And then, of course, they had a bad snap the very next series. So they had a couple things really go bad right there in a row. But credit our defense for, putting them in those positions and making them have to punt and like I said, stopping them on that fourth down. Like I said, the whole game changed because I think we had, 4 straight scores, right after halftime. So the whole game changed right there on that fourth down stop.
Kevin, you mentioned at the top that this championship team did it with less heralded names. Of course, there was no Jordan James, no Isaiah Horton, no Antonio Patterson. Those guys are all off playing college football now after helping you guys win the back-to-back titles the previous 2 seasons. But I guess I'm curious, how were you guys able to make up for all that lost production with these less heralded names and still come out with the same result?
I just think, going way back before, Jordan James and those guys arrived, I think, there's been a high standard, and, the senior class that we have this year didn't want to let down that standard, and been here 8 years, and we've been, into the fourth round of the playoffs every year. So, at least wanted to make it to Thanksgiving, and we did, and, kept our home win streak alive by beating Maryville in round 4. So, I think there's just a high standard and a lot of pressure on those guys to hold up their end of the bargain. And so our senior class did that. And, like I said, I'm proud of them. They're a good group to go to battle with, and, a good group to practice with every day. They definitely are football junkies, and they put in the time and put in the effort. So they deserve it. And we're real happy with the results. 3-peat's hard to do. We saw it last year. It was hard. We had a lot of struggles last year just trying to go back to back. And there's a reason nobody's ever done it before, because it's so hard to do.
Kevin, I think we all can agree that, Anthony Crabtree is very precise in his message. And I think there was a reason behind his kind of, exuberant answer on the coach's call earlier in the week. But I'm sure your team probably heard those comments, read those comments. I guess, how would you categorize their week of practice leading up to that game and just not listening to the noise? And do you think it's partly because of the previous team's success that they had that it rubbed off on them?
Yeah, I told him that I knew Coach Crabtree for a long time. And, at the end of the day, he's going to have his team ready to play, and they're going to compete, and it's going to – and they remind me a lot of our team, good defense, really good on special teams, and love running the ball on offense. So that's usually a pretty good formula for success, especially, the deeper you go in the playoffs and the colder the weather gets, stuff like that. But we knew it was going to be a tough matchup, and anybody that scores 50 points in the fourth round of the playoffs better get your attention, and I think it did. And I can't lie now, I'm telling you, we had the best week of practice we've had in years. So, definitely got a lot of respect for Beach and their players. I mean, they've got one running back that averages 10 yards a carry, and then they give it to their other running back who averages 12 yards a carry. So, we didn't have anybody near 1,000 yards. They had 2 guys over 1,000 yards. So it's pretty easy to get our attention whenever you're scoring 50 points in the fourth round of the playoffs.
Eric Taylor was singled out earlier as, being an absolute game changer for you guys, both on offense and defense when he returned from that injury. And of course, in the title game, he delivered an MVP performance with 175 rushing yards and 4 touchdowns. What can you say about Eric and how he helps you guys down the stretch run and also during the playoffs?
Yeah, Eric's, a talented guy, really, really good with the ball in his hands, but he was so valuable to us on defense the last couple of years. He started for us as a sophomore on defense. He comes in at a whopping 5'9", 175 pounds. And so he's not getting a million looks, by these college coaches, which is unfortunate because he's the best player on the field by far. And he was the best player on the field a couple times last year, but, we couldn't afford to get him hurt by having him run the ball a lot. And so after his shoulder surgery, we slowly put him back in the mix. And, the deeper we got in the playoffs, the more he got the ball and the more productive he was.
Kevin, let's talk about this defense in general. You give up just 13 points per game with your new defensive coordinator, Jeff Kent, including what I thought taking out Beach's X factor in Saturday's championship game, Caden Tiemann. I believe he had minus 23 rushing yards. I guess what made that defense, that group, so difficult to crack this year?
Yeah, Coach Kent comes, from good football down in South Georgia and, brought some new ideas and new schemes and things like that. At the same time, I think it's all about buying in, and I think our guys bought into what he was selling and definitely had an aggressive nature to his philosophy. And, we had a couple senior linebackers that were well over 100 tackles apiece, which is almost unheard of. Bourne's one of the top 10 tacklers in the entire nation. Nathan Hepburn had a great senior year, led our defense and was kind of like a coach on the field, to tell you the truth. So we had a lot of guys that bought in, and there are certain roles that certain people had. A lot of times our D-line, had to take up blockers, especially against Beach and Coach Crabtree. And we had some D linemen that didn't have a lot of tackles, but they were taking up double teams and freeing guys like Eric Taylor and Nathan Hepburn to make a lot of tackles.
And Kevin, let's look forward a little bit now. The new classification cycle starts up next year, and that means new non-region games. And I know a lot of the top teams, yours included, has struggled to find those non-region opponents the last few years. Teams don't always want to take a loss in the non-region. Some teams are looking for easier games. I'm curious, have you guys been able to finalize any of your 5 non-region opponents for the next couple of seasons?
We picked up a couple. Yeah, we have Ravenwood and Independence that have already signed a contract and want to play a home and away game and stuff like that. So we've gotten a couple of them. Still working to fill the schedule. I was talking to a coach out of Tupelo, Mississippi today. So we're going to have a hard time. Coach Crabtree's going to have a hard time. We've even talked about hollering at each other if neither one of us can find games and stuff like that. So, the timing they release it, I don't know why they release it during the playoffs when, I think people could probably wait till the championship games and we could still figure out a way to, maybe fill our schedules. But we're having a hard time because, you're trying to prepare for a playoff opponent, playoff run, and you don't really have time to be making a lot of phone calls asking people to play you. So now I'm making phone calls, and a lot of people are already full, and may have to go out of state, like we did last year. May have to go out of state and play somebody, but we try to find difficult opponents that make us better, and because of our difficult schedule, when we do find ourselves in a hard spot in the playoffs, we know that we've been there before in the regular season, and we've been able to, learn from some of those tough games. And like I said, we'll probably have a pretty tough schedule next year.
Kevin, 2 of your quarterbacks graduate this year, Cade Hewitt, Max Levinsky. Can we expect your son Kyler to be in the mix, the next starter next year? Or is he going to have to earn it? Kind of what's your quarterback situation going into 2023?
Yeah, that's kind of what it's looking like. Kyler's probably the next man up, and to tell you the truth, we've got some young guys. We got a freshman that we are really high on. He's one of 3 triplets. His sister, I saw her play powder puff. She was actually might be the most athletic in the family. I don't know if I can get her out for football, but Patrick Freeman is her brother, and he's really good. Led our freshman to an undefeated season. Kyler led our JV team to an undefeated season. So Kyler and Patrick will be battling it out. But, Kyler's pretty much got the playbook in his head right now. He's just got to be able to execute it on a high level. And like I said, it should be interesting sitting around the dinner table after a practice or two.
Yeah, that'll be fun to see how all that shakes out, Kevin. And congratulations once again on a successful season and another state championship. And we appreciate you taking some time for us today.
Thanks, guys, for having me on. We appreciate you.
Absolutely. That has been Oakland football coach Kevin Creasy. Another dominant run from them. 14-1 is the record. The lone blemish, a loss to CPA in the non-region in early October. But other than that, a great year for them. So we are going to take a quick break right now and then come back with some Blue Cross Bowl recaps, and then later on some highlights from the 2022 season.
It was just a few drinks. I'm good.
I thought it was good.
After every game, we always have a few. It's no big deal. It was no big deal.
Hey, I can hold my liquor. I thought I could hold my liquor.
So the Blue Cross Bowls are in the books, meaning high school football season in Tennessee is officially over. It's always bittersweet, Zach, to get to this point in the year. And, we had quite a few mid-state teams down there in Chattanooga, 11 to be exact. And unfortunately for the area, only 3 came home with wins. Lipscomb Academy in Division II AA, Friendship Christian in Division II Single A, and Oakland, of course, in Class 6A. All of them played mid-state teams in their final matchups. You hate to just measure a successful season for the area by how many championships are won, because there's plenty of teams that didn't win championships that had great seasons, but that's kind of where we're at, Zach. There was just the 3, and the other, East and West Tennessee took home the rest of them.
Yeah, I still think there's something to be said though for just getting there in high school. Maybe if you want to argue that championships only matter in professional sports, that's one thing. But I think at this level, especially, I don't think you can take away any of the runs that, especially the Metro Nashville Public Schools had, East Nashville, Pearl Cone, to be exact. I just think getting there, coming home with either gold or silver. Obviously, you want gold, but silver's not a bad consolation prize. And, some of those matchups were really, really good, really tough. East Nashville going against Alcoa. 8 straight gold balls for them. That's unprecedented. Alcoa gave Anderson County all that they wanted in their game. So I don't know that we can measure the success of a team if they brought home a gold football or not. I think a lot of teams bringing home silver, a lot to be proud of. Obviously, they're disappointed, but I think from an outsider's point of view, a great, great season for sure.
Yeah, when you think about disappointment, I think one of the first teams that comes to mind is obviously Montgomery Bell Academy. They were undefeated heading into their championship game and really just lost a heartbreaker there to Baylor 38-34. You mentioned it too, a couple Metro teams came painfully close to a title. It's been since 2008 when Hillsborough beat Maryville. That was the last time a Metro team won a state championship, and you really thought between East and Pearl both being there and both being in these tight competitive games that somebody had pulled out, but wasn't meant to be. Pearl Cone even had a halftime lead over Anderson County and just could not quite get it done. I will say, though, if we're looking for silver linings, that Firebird team, man, they're going to enter next year, I think, as a pretty heavy favorite, because the junior class they have is just loaded with talent on offense and defense. When you look at the offensive side, you've got Keyshawn Tarleton at quarterback, Malachi Cromwell at running back, and then Dearius Reed, who had a fantastic championship game at wide receiver. On the defensive side of the ball, there's Jock Williams, Grayson Beach, Zion Simpson. All these guys are going to be back next year, and I think that's going to make Pearl Cone just a force to be reckoned with. So some positivity there for them. Also, to start the week, we got the bombshell news that Trent Dilfer was leaving for UAB less than 48 hours before Lipscomb Academy showdown with CPA. He still coached the game, and of course they rolled to a 42-0 win. But Zach, what did you make of that news and the timing of it and everything? It was just kind of a crazy week there for Lipscomb Academy.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not surprised that he's moving on, that Dilfer is moving on. I always felt like his talents and just kind of his whole demeanor was destined for something bigger than high school ball. But the timing of it, I think, is interesting. And we're in this business where we're not supposed to wait on anything. And so, could someone maybe have had a conversation 24 hours later, 48 hours later, maybe, but how fast does college football move at the end of the day? And if it was one of those things where, you have to give an answer by X amount of time, then it was only a matter of time before sources found out. And then of course their job is to push it out as soon as they can. But, the timing of it all wasn't great, but what about their response? What about the team's response, Russell? Everybody was kind of taking shots at maybe not them, but Dilfer leading up to it and just kind of everything around it. And their response was I obviously didn't watch them every game, but that game that they played on Thursday looked to be picture perfect. I don't know what your opinion is on that, but their response as a team is what really stood out about that entire 72-hour kind of window of opportunity, I guess you would say.
Yeah, they essentially gave CPA no chance in a 42-0 win, and they had every reason to be distracted, but it didn't seem like from the jump that was going to be a problem at all. And they played really probably one of their most complete performances of the year against, a really good team. CPA in any other year is going to be the state champion. They went to Lausanne and won. They went 2 Chattanooga Christian and 1, and really were the second strongest team, I thought, in that classification by a pretty good margin there. So for Lipscomb to do that was impressive. And then, Trent Dilfer going to UAB obviously opens up a lot of opportunities, I think, for Nashville guys, especially Lipscomb players. And, Hank Brown, shortly after the game, decommitted from Liberty and picked up an offer from UAB. I know Brian Longwell, Junior Sherrill, Nate Spillman all picked up scholarship offers, as well as a bunch of their seniors too got preferred walk-on spots. So really neat for them to get that opportunity. Maybe not all of them would have been FBS guys, but if you can go fill out a back end of a roster with your former coach that you've already got a connection with, I think that's a great opportunity for you. And then, as expected, Dilfer is also recruiting some of the top guys that he likes in the Nashville area that didn't play for his team, including Davidson Academy's Cortland Simmons and McGavitt's Demetrius Bell. Both of them picked up offers this week. So I am really fascinated, Zach, to see how many of these local guys actually land there and follow Dilfer to UAB. I think there's going to be at least a few.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, if a couple of these guys, if they're not FBS level, if they've got an opportunity to fill out the back end of a roster, they're definitely going to take that and play for their high school coach. So I think we'll definitely see some there. Hank Brown is the interesting one. Obviously their coach left for Auburn, so you kind of thought maybe he was going to decommit anyway, and then now his head coach goes to UAB, and so who knows what's going to happen with him? But maybe that's a good fit for Hank Brown at the next level. I don't know how comparable Liberty is to UAB competition wise, but maybe that's a seamless fit for him. And if Dilfer gets a quarterback that he likes, and is able to put up some points, I think he could be very successful at the next level and springboard UAB into a bigger college offer.
It certainly seems like a marriage that could work out well, but we'll see what Hank Brown decides to do. Lastly, Zach, I know this is something you were really excited about. Anderson County had a furry friend go out and retrieve the tee after every kickoff. What'd you think about that?
A furry friend. I like that. Yes, I do. Listen, I think this might be a first in TSSAA history, a dog getting credentialed to go onto the field. I bet you that probably angered a lot of team moms that reach out wanting field passes to see their teams play, that instead of a mascot got a field pass before they did. But no, that was great. Seeing her run out there, get the kicking tees. Listen, I'm a big fan of dogs. I think dogs always make the atmosphere better. And so she was obviously a fan favorite. Pictures galore I saw on social media. So that was really, really cool. That's probably the best thing I saw this week, to be honest.
Yeah, it was neat. And Ella is her name, by the way. She's got a pretty big social media presence, so you can certainly find her on Twitter and Instagram if you're interested.
She follows me. She followed me back.
How about that? So Zach got a little bit of love. You were probably tweeting about her, and that's great.
I like everything that she puts out, honestly.
So there you go. So if you haven't seen the Ella from Anderson County content, it is all over the website. I don't know how you missed it, but it's certainly there if you want to check it out. That's going to do it for our Blue Cross Bowl recap. When we come back after this break, we're going to put a final bow on the 2022 season by sharing a couple memorable games and moments from the year. So stick around.
It's just a few cocktails at happy hour.
It was just a few cocktails at happy hour.
You really good try.
There aren't any cops around.
I didn't think there were any cops around.
I drink and drive all the time.
Sir, you've been in a serious crash. I need you to hang on, okay? Cover your name, sir. Where you are right now?
All right, Zach, this is going to do us for the 2022 football season. Let's talk about some of the best games that we saw either in person or online. I know you spent most of your season in the studio helping out with our Friday Night Live weekly show, so you were able to kind of see a wider variety of games. I ended up at a lot of blowouts for whatever reason, but of all the games that you were following, what was kind of the one that stuck out to you as the most memorable?
Well, when I saw this, I immediately had three come to mind. Like you said, I was in studio, so I was able to kind of surf, a lot of games this season. So I had a really tough time picking. But the one that I went, the final was a regular season game. I went Mount Juliet and White County all the way back on September 16th. If fans don't remember, White County had taken a lead late in that football game. They just White County decides to squib kick it on the ensuing kickoff. Mount Juliet gets a good return, and then one play later, they hit the famous hook and ladder that sets up the game-winning field goal for them. That proved to be a huge region win for them. Mount Juliet went on to win the region championship. White County, as many of you know, had to go on the road to, I believe it was Nolensville in round one. So I think that win right there may have cost White County a chance to be at home this year. So that game early in the season turned out to be a big one late in the year.
Yeah, I was listening to that, the end of that game on the radio on my drive home from whatever game I was at, and I would remember being really fired up because I'd picked Mount Juliet in that game and made picks before everything, you know. So
yeah, exactly. Which you won, by the way.
Yeah, that's right. Oh yeah, humble brag here. I did win the Main Street Preps staff-wide pick'em contest, so I'm proud of that. I'm not taking any victory laps, but I think anybody that saw the picks in the standings all year kind of knew whose picks to ride with. So, anyways, like I said, Zach, for whatever reason, I ended up with a lot of games that I thought were going to be good, and then for whatever reason, didn't end up being as great. When I was looking down my list, I ended up with a lot of lopsided games. But one game that came down to the final possession that really stuck out to me was when Brentwood beat Centennial 15-9 on the final night of the regular season, October 28th. And the Region 7 6A title was up for grabs at that point. Unfortunately for Brentwood, Ravenwood also won. They had the tiebreaker, so they got that first place spot. But Brentwood was able to get a home playoff game in this win, and they had to hold on at the very end. Will Adcock broke up a pass kind of in the final seconds right in the end zone. It was their fifth and final stop in the red zone for the Brentwood defense. Just came up big all night when it mattered most for them. And really reminded me a lot of this year's Titans, how they was kind of a bend but don't break kind of defense. It was an ugly score, 15-9, but that was kind of how their team was built, and it ended up being a pretty successful year for them. They also went on to beat Collierville the next week, and then had a competitive loss in the second round of the playoffs. But that was the game that was kind of the most exciting ending, at least of all the games I saw in person.
Yeah, a lot of really good options, I think. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, Russell. My bad.
No, all good. So let's move on to the best individual performance of the year. I'll start this one, Zach. I think, you speaking of White County a moment ago, Malachi Dowell, almost any of his games probably could have been the performance of the year, but when he had 34 rushes for 472 yards and 7 touchdowns in a 59-54 win at Cookeville earlier in the year, I mean, I just don't think anything tops that. That was he carried the team basically to a victory there. Yeah,
I don't think so either. I mean, if there's a better performance out there, I'd love to see it. I really would. I really, really would. Mine is Eric Taylor, Oakland. I mean, anytime you're the catalyst to bringing home a gold football, I think you deserve the honors. I mean, a lot of credit goes to his offensive line too. He finished the game 18 carries, 175 yards, and 4 touchdowns in their 42-6 win over Beach in the Class 6A title game. But he was getting like 5 yards a tote before he was even touched. But he was also making really good moves out there on the field. He was making good cuts and had really good vision. And so his performance on Saturday was kind of a sight to behold, and it was a big reason they brought home that gold football and made it kind of a blowout early in the third quarter.
Entering that game, I believe Taylor was averaging over 10 yards a carry. So when you're getting a first down or more per carry, that's efficiency right there. Yes, what about, Zach, to close it out here, the biggest surprise to you this season was fill in the blank?
Well, for me, just to kind of come back home, I think Beach making it to the title game in 6A is a surprise. I go back to my comments with Anthony Crabtree preseason, and he told me that his offensive linemen rather wear skinny jeans, be basketball players than be big boys and eat and get some meat on their bones. And so anytime you don't have it in the trenches like that, you think not a good year. So making it all the way to that state title game was my biggest surprise.
Man, Coach Crabtree is just a quote machine, Zach. You need to get as much mileage out of that as you possibly can. That's awesome. But my biggest surprise was Page making it back to the Class 5A title game. Of course, they ended up as the runner-up for the second straight year. But for them to get there, I thought was really impressive, especially after last year seemed like their kind of year of destiny when they had Jake McNamara leading the way. He had an incredible playoff run, and it ended up being that Colin Hurd, who played linebacker most of last year, was equally as impressive at quarterback and was able to make all the throws for them and battled through injuries all year to get them to that game. So hats off to Page for another good year. Came up short, but they were right there in the mix. So that is going to do us for football season. We're still going to have plenty of football wrap-up content to come, Zach. There's the Mr. Football Awards Wednesday. There's National Signing Day in 2 weeks. We're going to roll out our all mid-state football team and the Superlative Awards too soon enough. But then it's also time for basketball and then a little bit of wrestling and bowling too. So we're on to winter sports, and we really appreciate everybody following us all year during football season.
Absolutely. It's been a fun one, and I'm looking forward to the winter season for sure.
And so we're going to continue too with Main Street Preps this week. You'll be able to find us here at the same time, same place. And lastly, I want to remind everybody that this podcast is sponsored by the Tennessee Highway Safety Office. Fans don't let fans drive drunk. We'll see you here next time on Main Street Preps this week.